They run, they jump, and they save the princess. Since its start, Nintendo has created such amazing series as Mario, Donkey Kong, Legend of Zelda, and more. It's not hard to imagine that there have been multiple attempts at bringing these games to the world of animated film and television. Unfortunately, it's only natural that some of them would be less than successful. Hi, I'm Adrian with ChannelFrederator, and I'm here to show you the darker side of Nintendo. And by darker, we mean the bad side. So grab a firefly to light the way, because we're counting down the 8 worst Nintendo animated adaptations. Don't worry, Pokemon did not make the list. Let's get started. Number 8. Kirby Right Back Atcha. Okay, this might be a little controversial because I myself liked it, but surprisingly, not a lot of people liked it. This was also the only attempt at a Kirby TV series. Kirby Right Back Atcha follows our favorite Star Warrior as he protects the people of Cappy Town from the evil minions and monsters of King DDD. The series is okay. It's fun, lighthearted, and basically what you'd expect from a Kirby TV series. It's Kirby battling evil by absorbing random objects and weapons to turn into different versions of Kirby. We see fan favorites such as Sword Kirby, Fire Kirby, and Chef Kirby. What put this series on the list is Kirby himself. As the protagonist of the series and the named character, you'd expect the show to be on his shoulders. Sadly, this isn't the case. Kirby doesn't talk throughout the series, with the exception of a few choice words. This made him really hard to connect with as a viewer. He has the mindset of a child, but one who can express himself. Sure, characters like Tiff and Tuff can speak for the people of Cappy Town well enough, but in a Kirby show, I kinda wanna hear from Kirby. Hi! Go figure. Number 7. F-Zero GP Legend. And I'm guessing GP stands for Grand Prix. Let's be honest, most of you only know Captain Falcon from Super Smash Bros. People don't usually think about racing when they hear his name. They more likely think of something along the lines of Falcon Punch! He's a race car driver by day and space cop by night. Revived by cryogenic storage after 150 years, Rick was brought to the future to help battle the evil Zoda and his organization. Now, how do they battle him? By winning races to keep prize money out of the villain's grasp. Yeah. All in all, watching this show is kinda like watching Speed Racer. The biggest problem is that Captain Falcon isn't the protagonist. You would assume that since Captain Falcon is the only widely known character in the entire series, that Rick would eventually be discovered as Captain Falcon. This isn't the case, and it definitely weakens the show as a whole, similar to our Kirby issue. Although the final Falcon Punch in the series is still amazing to watch. Number 6. Captain N the Game Master. The concept of this show was actually pretty clever. Rather than try and create a show for each of their series, Captain N decided to create Videoland, a world where several of Nintendo and Capcom's greatest titles all coexist to save the day. The main worlds in the series include Metroid, Castlevania, Mount Icarus, Congoland, Megaland, and the Palace of Power. Our hero, Kevin, was transported from our world into Videoland to assist Pit, Mega Man, Simon Belmont, and the Princess in order to save the Palace of Power from the evil minions of Mother Brain. The series brought in characters from multiple properties including The Legend of Zelda, Super Mario Bros., Duck Hunt, and Mega Man, and later on the Game Boy itself. So why is it on this list? Well, unfortunately the characters didn't really look like their video game counterparts, especially Mega Man. Yikes. Way to stick it to Capcom, I guess, but the worst part of the characters were the insane voices and archetypes. Mega Man sounded like he was talking through a fan, Belmont was a pretty boy narcissist, not a slayer of vampires and demons, and Pit sounded like a chain smoker, and looked kinda like Billy Quizboy from Venture Brothers before puberty. You boys got a cigarette? Not to mention, he was rude and abrasive. It's honestly kinda depressing to find out when you combine some of the best heroes in gaming, they can't even defeat Mother Brain. Also, where the hell is Samus in all of this? Another Nintendo fail, but A for effort? Number 5. The Adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3. This was a follow-up adventure to the original Super Mario Bros. Super Show. Don't think about that one, we'll get there eventually. Serving as a follow-up to the corresponding video game, the show followed Mario and Luigi taking on King Koopa and his evil Koopalings throughout the Mushroom Kingdom. The plumbers were equipped with Tanuki suits, boots, and more, and the brothers did everything they could to defeat the evil family. The Adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3 managed to fix a lot of the problems that existed with the original Super Show series, but still wasn't much better. They cut out the rapping and live action, but decided to throw more songs in the cartoons. What is it with Nintendo and making their characters sing? Again, we'll get there. The series followed the game only in name, but not really in content. The addition of the Koopalings was nice, but they simply acted like spoiled children, not criminal masterminds. It basically makes the show about 2 plumbers picking on little kids the whole time. Every episode was supposed to be educational, teaching you about inclusion, diversity, sharing, and more. Basically, it was your stereotypical 80s, 90s cartoon that couldn't just be entertaining. The show was simply too boring. It's not the worst, but honestly, there were better cartoons at the time. Even ones that were based on video games that would teach us lessons and entertain us. Sonic.
That's no good.
It seems the Great Blue Shell in the Sky agreed with us since this show lasted about 26 episodes. However, we can say that it was better than its predecessor. The songs were fewer and far between, and at least they kept away from the rapping. Dear God, the rapping. It's finally gone. Number 4, Donkey Kong Country. Who knew apes could be so shiny? Donkey Kong Country was Nintendo's first and only attempt to turn DK into a cartoon. This show was created in the early days of 3D animation, hence why everyone looks so shiny. It centers around DK protecting the mystical crystal coconut, basically their world's Deus Ex Machina. It could predict the future, answer any question, and was an infinite power source. You would think that after the wide success of his games, the show would try to emulate the pre-existing franchise. Yeah, not so much. What we got instead was a pun-riddled, song-enveloping, comedically weak show that was a poorly rendered 3D train wreck. I understand that DK isn't necessarily the smartest gorilla in the pack, but in the TV series, he's just annoying. He's constantly making puns about bananas, trying to invent things that never work, and trying to impress the girl of his dreams, which never works. This version of DK just doesn't seem that strong and cool. Plus, when you add the weak 3D animation at the time, it just looks lazy. Then there are the songs. In every episode, there are 2 different songs to move the episode along. Some of them remind me of the old DK crew rap from Donkey Kong 64. The problem is that most of the DK crew is simply not in the series. If you're going to represent the music of Donkey Kong, why wouldn't you just make the show about the OG DK crew? Honestly, I think I'd be more entertained watching a show about DK smashing barrels and eating bananas. Number 3, Super Mario Bros. Super Show. I told you we'd get to it. Again, you should never ever have listened to the Mario Brothers rapping. This show was an oddity even by 1989 standards, with Lou Albano and Danny Wells playing both the live-action and animated versions of the characters. Their Brooklyn accents and over-the-top attitude are straight out of the 80s and don't really hold up well. What made this show different than its successor were the live-action segments that were set up before the actual cartoon would start. They would have the voice actors come out and interact with different celebrities. The first episode was literally them smearing dirt and mud on a young woman, and it never gets better. Every one of these were just weird and felt out of place for our favorite plumber. And it seemed like a cheap way to have celebrity cameos. Another disappointment about this show was that it included the wrong elements of the games. Yes, the soundtrack and sound effects were cool and true to the source. Jump animations, background music for Koopa and his minions, and even Birdo were present at every opportunity, but the show ignored other things like plot and character. If you had this much access to the source material, why wouldn't you focus on all of it, and not just on how it sounds? Also, the use of catchphrases like pasta power didn't really help, not surprisingly. Looks like this show needed a one-up mushroom. Number 2, The Legend of Zelda. This was just a weird series. The stories were boring, they didn't really follow any Zelda lore, and the characters were all drastically different from their video game counterparts. At this point, is it surprising being this far down the list? Even the Triforce, which had only 2 parts, spoke to their respective wielders, Zelda and Ganon. Link was a jock, Zelda was a stuck-up princess who dreamed of adventure, Ganon was a blubbering fool, and Navi, or Sprite, was Navi. The opening line of the show had Link complaining about being stuck in Hyrule rather than just being a wandering hero. While the video game's relationship between Link and Zelda was never outright stated as romantic, fans could at least have assumed that they were on friendly terms. In the animated series, Link and Zelda were constantly driving each other crazy. I don't really know what's worse, the constant bickering or Link's catchphrase, "Excuse me, princess." Maybe that's why Link doesn't really talk in the games. Number 1, Super Mario Bros. Peach Hime Kyushutsu Dai Saksen, which says something about Princess Peach. This film was never actually ported into the United States. The videos never made it to DVD, and the VHS copies actually remain one of the rarest pieces in Mario merchandise to this day. That being said, we can barely call it a Mario video anyway. The movie's just strange. Luigi's yellow instead of his usual green, the Toadstools are all anime-style women, Bowser professes his love for Peach, his minions all look like their real-world counterparts, oh, and Luigi is a greedy fool. Kinda sounds like Wario, to be honest. Seriously, the only way anyone could convince Luigi to come with Mario to save the day is to promise him a reward. At some points in the video, he leaves his brother behind to go looking for loot. Way to stand by your brother, Luigi. And way not to stand by the original story, Nintendo. Once again, I'm Adrian, and thanks for watching the 8 worst Nintendo animated adaptations. Which do you think is the worst? Comment below and let us know. Check out some of our other videos by clicking the links in the description, and don't forget to subscribe to ChannelFrederator and click that bell to be notified when we upload videos. And remember, Frederator loves you.